Hello, BookTube. I was walking the bean first thing this morning. Boy, oh boy, did the temperature drop. It was chilly on our early morning walk this morning. When the thought occurred to me that it had been a long, long time since I went to the Brattle Bookshop in downtown Boston. So, once I had the bean all fed and settled, and once she was making it pretty clear to me that she was going to go to sleep, regardless, that she'd had her breakfast, she was feeling drowsy, she was nice and warm, she was going to go to sleep. Once I had a pretty good feel for that, I decided to put my pants on and go to the Brattle, which is a used bookstore in downtown Boston. They're incredible, absolutely incredible. 3 floors of books plus an outdoor sale lot. The outdoor sale lot tries the sinews of the mighty on days like today, and that might get worse this year. It could get colder than this year. I myself don't think so, not by more than 5 degrees, but it could come close to freezing on the Fahrenheit scale. It could get down into the upper 30s, let's say in the heart of January, the very coldest part of the year. It could get down into the upper 30s as a daytime high. Not usually, not for any stretch of time. Most of those days, the daytime high will be in the mid-60s Fahrenheit, just like it will be today, just like it will be forever, until around mid-April, when daytime highs start pegging in the 90s, the triple digits, maybe even the quadruple digits, who knows. But in times past, when it was bitterly, bitterly cold and windy outside, the Brattle sale lot outside can be a trial. One that I've gone through many, many times. My old friend Deb and I used to go there when it was lightly snowing. Not worth the effort to haul the carts back inside, so Deb and I would just stand there like Yellowstone bison with snow accumulating on our hats and glasses and whatnot as we looked at the books. It wasn't nearly so bad today, and I did have errands to run in the area, so I went back. And I got a ton of books that I want to show you. And keep in mind, as with always, the goal here is to find keepers. But things are so cheap at the Brattle that if I think something's a keeper and then a week later, 2 weeks later, a month later, I realize it's not, it's no big deal. It's not like a great amount of money changed hands either way. So I'm hoping, some of these I know are not keepers. I just did them because they were $1 and I'm curious. But otherwise, I'm hoping there are some keepers in this pile. So I only got 2 paperbacks, but one was small. One mass market paperback from the 70s, I believe. Where else could this be from? Yeah, 1975. This is by a pulp writer named Jack Thomas, and this is called The Fear Dealers, the sensational novel of 5 freaked out kids on a rampage. And there are 3 of our kids giving off very much Warriors type vibes here, but I haven't read this one. I've read a couple of very similar sounding teen thrillers from this author. I think I read them when they were coming out. I think I read them in the 70s. A couple of them. I know I didn't read this. I know I'd remember this cover. They're obvious, teensploitation and a little bit silly. I will, for this one, I didn't think about this at the time when I grabbed it, but I will dip into this. Ordinarily, I don't dip into books. Ordinarily, I tuck into them or fall on them like a ravenous pack of wolves. But I will dip into this. And if this, in the first few pages, the first chapter, is as bad as I remember some of this author's other teensploitation novels being, I will save it for Garb August. I won't actually plow my way through it. Then, this next one is a perfect example of the Brattle will provide. For those of you who are new to my channel, I've been going to the Brattle for quite some time, and one of the phrases that I have come to live by there is the Brattle will provide. And what that means is, if you want something, provided you don't go to the Brattle with a list, with a shopping list, this is what I'm looking for. If you do that, you won't find what you're looking for. You'll be lucky if you find anything at all. But if you're just sort of generally looking for something, or you've just recently noticed a lack, something that you wish you had, the Brattle will provide. Wait long enough, go often enough, and you will find the thing you're looking for. It is inevitable. They are out buying all the time. Their stock is turning over all the time. Just yesterday, or the day before, something like that, I was talking about Joseph Lincoln, a novelist who immortalized a quaint old Cape Cod that never existed, certainly didn't exist in his boyhood, but it sold like crazy. And I mentioned at the time that I don't have any Joseph Lincoln novels. Not even, I think in the video I even said that I don't even have my favorite one, which is The Rise of Roscoe Payne. A young man story of a type that Lincoln loved to write. He would often have grizzled old sea captains as his main characters, but he also loved to write about young people and did it really well. I looked in the Brattle sale lot today. I looked at every book. I was kind of chilly, but it didn't matter. I was having a blast. And also the chill keeps other customers away, so I had the lot mostly to myself. Just telling stories to myself about all the books that I was looking at, all the long association that I've had with all these old friends. I found one Joseph Lincoln novel, The Rise of Roscoe Payne. So the Brattle will provide. I don't know if this has its illustrations. Sometimes, oh yeah, it does still have its illustrations. See that? Lovely things like that. I learned there used to be a booktuber named Jason Harrigan, and he's a book dealer as well. He's not on BookTube anymore, but I learned from his channel that a popular thing for some antiquarian book dealers to do is to go through old books like this and cut out the illustrations and sell them separately as, I guess, little occasional art or whatnot. So I always look now to see if someone's done that. But no, this is the very Joseph Lincoln book that I wanted. I would maybe have spurned it without a dust jacket, but this has a color naked hardcover. So there you go. So the Brattle provided. I will reread this before the end of the year. Then this was a rebuy. There are quite a few rebuys today. And what I mean by rebuy is something that I have bought in the past at the Brattle. Oftentimes in the last 6 years or 7 years, I've hauled it in front of you, talked about it, and then one of you sees it and wants it and asks for it, and I send it to you. I'm sending out books all the time. That was one of the errands that I did before I went to the Brattle today, was to mail off boxes and boxes of books. And then the reason that I do it is because I have access to a shop with a massive stock turnover. So I'm going to see these things. I'm far more likely to see them than most people are. So if somebody sees a book of mine, well, asking me if I would put it in a padded envelope and send it to you is a lot more assured than buying it online from some creepy liar on eBay. I understand that. So I often just grab these things off the shelf, say, oh, well, so-and-so wants it, and I am going to see it again. And they're never going to see it, so I might as well. And this is an example of that. This is Thomas Mallon. This is the book Yours Ever, which dovetails with a comment that I was making the other day when we were talking. I think we were talking about the new edition of the Letters of J.R.R. Tolkien, which got me thinking about letter collections. I recently read my way through both letter collections by both John le Carré and Graham Greene. And I read my way through the Tolkien volume, just fascinating. Oh, I don't remember the original version being anywhere near as interesting. And I know that it was, because it's only 150 extra letters. And that, obviously, all of that got me thinking about snail mail. Got me thinking about the days when I was an absolutely prolific snail mail author. Those of you who were born in the 21st century you won't have any experience with this, but once upon a time, it was the way you did things. And I had a desk at the time, and I didn't work on the couch because there were no laptop computers. There was no internet. So I had a desk, and I had it set up for snail mail correspondence. It had books on it. It had documents in the drawers and cabinets and whatnot, but it was set up for correspondence. That's what I did on that desk mostly. So there was a stack of clean paper, two different kinds. Heavy stock clean white paper for business type correspondence, onion skin paper for personal correspondence. There was a tray with stamped envelopes already done. There were address labels, or I'd already addressed those letters. It was all very, very much meant to remove any kind of friction so that I could get a huge amount of letters done in one morning. Get them done, put the finished ones in the envelopes, put them on the right-hand side, start again from the left-hand side, figure what the next thing is on the list you have to do. Do you have to write to the gas company? Do you have to write to a publisher? Do you have to write to a friend? Do you have to write to a distant acquaintance that you don't know very well? Is one letter on your docket going to take a lot more time than others? Is one letter going to require maybe a drafting as opposed to just writing off the top of your head? that was my life forever and ever and ever. And this book is Malin examining that. This is the companion to his book, A Book of One's Own, which is about keeping a personal journal. This is about letter writing. So 2 lost things. I kept hoping in the back of my mind that he would do a 3rd volume on postcards. But as far as I know, he never did. Moved on to writing unbelievably, hair-pullingly infuriating historical fiction. But this is absolutely delightful. It really is a love letter to a vanished era, because snail mail is gone, just gone. I get letters. I don't get any personal letters, but I get stuff in the mail, junk mail, bills, still. But personal correspondence, I remember the last personal correspondence that I wrote. I had a correspondent in, I had a huge roster of correspondence for decades. It was always fluctuating, but it was huge. And once everybody started to realize that they could send an email, that roster went down and down and down until it was down to 3 people. And then it was down to only 1. My last correspondent was an old friend of mine who lives in China. And I remember the last letter that I wrote to her. I, in fact, said in that letter, it's weird for me to believe that this would be the last personal letter that I write in my life. That seemed really weird, and yet I love email. You can bombard somebody. You can send somebody 10 emails a day. They get them all instantaneously, and they can respond at their leisure. You can share a thought with someone. You can share a visual with someone. So much easier, so much more convenient than writing it out in a snail mail, folding it, sticking it in the envelope, trying to figure out whether or not 1 stamp is enough, or maybe 2. Then you've got to put it in a pile of outgoing mail on the right-hand side. That pile gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Then you've got to take them out on a dog walk to the nearest post box, put them in there. I always used to read the time of the pickup was printed on the box. I always used to read that and think, oh, okay, so you're picking up, I'm too late now, so you're picking up next at 1 tomorrow. So it'll be in the system by tomorrow sundown, and then it'll be on its way, and you're calculating in your mind, how long will it take to get to this person? How long will it take to get to the last person? And then down the days, a week later, you're thinking, all right, that person should have it by now. I wonder if they're working on a letter. I wonder if they are. So when can I expect a response? All of that stuff is just gone. But this is all about that stuff. This. Any of you who've read A Book of One's Own will know how adorable this is. So I was glad to find another copy. That happened a few times today. Like this thing, for instance, which I got from the publisher in, when did you come out? 2014? No, 2012. I got this from the publisher in 2012 and gobbled it right up. And reviewed it. I think I reviewed it. If I remember correctly, I'll try and find a review. This is edited by John Joseph Adams, and it is Under the Moons of Mars. And this is a collection. There should be 20 of these. This is a collection of pastiche fiction of John Carter of Mars. Which, for some odd reason, the Edgar Rice Burroughs... Yeah, look at that. See, it's got original artwork as well. This was really done well. For some reason, this is, I think, the only one of its kind that I know of. And I don't think there's ever been a volume like this for Tarzan or Carson of Venus. This is different writers taking a whack at telling adventure stories set in the Mars of John Carter of Mars, of Edgar Rice Burroughs. I wonder, will we know the authors here? Let's see. Okay, the stories are all illustrated by different people. And we have Joe Lansdale, Peter S. Beagle, Tobias Buckle, Robin Wasserman, Theodore Gross, Austin Grossman, Ellie Modesitt, Garth Nix has a story in here. Jonathan Mayberry has a story in here. Fantastic. Well, and one S.M. Sterling that comes close. I reviewed this and largely liked it. I was happy to see it. And then got rid of it for some reason, when I would certainly revisit this. I certainly would. Like every other Edgar Rice Burroughs fan, I have been tempted many times to write a Barsoom story of my own. And naturally, every time that temptation comes on me, I look on the shelves for this thing, which I must have got rid of. I must have sent it to somebody who wanted it, another Edgar Rice Burroughs fan. Found it again. That's great. Then I found a UK edition of a book that I never got as a finished copy when it came out in America. This is a very, very rare example of the American cover being better than the UK cover. This is Jesse Child's book, The Siege of Loyalty House. This is a UK hardcover. God only knows what the story of this thing is. Somebody probably... This is a fairly new book. It came out just in 2022 in the UK, 2022 in America as well, I think. Somebody must have maybe got this at the airport on the way to America, read it on the way over, didn't feel like lugging it around, dropped it off at the Brattle, or left it at somebody's house. They put it in a bag and sold it at the Brattle and whatnot. But this is the UK cover of a story of the mid-1640s, so the height of the English Civil War. And one particular house, Basing House, that was a royalist stronghold that was besieged and battered, and a very famous architect actually did his best to shore it up. And Jesse Childs uses that as a way to sort of tell a lot of stories about the English Civil War. I thought it was really, really good. I got the e-copy from the publisher, but I never got a print copy. So I grabbed it here. I don't know why I grabbed it. I don't think it's a keeper. I'll probably reread it. But I will reread it. But I doubt I'll keep it. I doubt I'd have kept the American version either. Even though I have a soft spot for the American Civil War, or the English Civil War. Then I found a Tor Essentials volume. These floppy trade paperback Tor Essentials volumes that they have the signature red spine. We saw one just recently, relatively recently on this channel. They brought out a Tor Essentials volume of Verna Vinge's Deepness in the Sky, I think was the name of it. And at the Brattle, just at random, I found another one. I found not only a Tor Essentials, but an omnibus volume. This is 3 Californias by Kim Stanley Robinson, who I just love. I'm a huge fan of Kim Stanley Robinson. And this book contains The Wild Shore, The Gold Coast, and Pacific Edge. 3 different novels that tell 3 different future California stories. The Wild Shore, I think, was one of Kim Stanley Robinson's very first books, and posits a future California that is horrific. The middle book, it's not a typical trilogy. They aren't connected in any way. They don't share characters or anything like that. And they also don't share dystopias. They don't share futures. This is 3 different imagined futures for California that get oddly closer to likely reality the further along you go. The last book, Pacific Edge, is practically a political prognostication about the future of California. But all written wonderfully. This is a big, fat trade paperback that I didn't know this thing existed. I had a copy of The Wild Shore a long, long time ago, and don't anymore. I don't have any print Kim Stanley Robinson. I have quite a bit of it in ebook. This, how can I pass this up? Look at how pretty that is. I don't know if maybe I will reread the 3rd book here. Of course, this will be ground zero for a lot of the problems that print books cause, right? If I want to read the 3rd book, well, there it is. Oh, so look at that. Somebody had that idea. Look at that. Somebody put a bookmark right at where the 3rd book starts. That's going to be kind of awkward to do, with the whole weight of the rest of the book pulling at me in a way that an ebook would not. But I couldn't pass it up. I might not keep it, but I couldn't pass it up. Then we have the kind of thing that I consider a Brattle book, because this is the kind of thing that you'll find at the Brattle for $1 that you won't find anywhere else. And if you did manage to find it at your used bookstore, it would be $40, not $1. It's just a question of, it's not a mistake on the Brattle's part. It's a question of them knowing exactly what they can and cannot sell. And I would never come across this anywhere else. So I grabbed it. What is your pub date? You are coming from Small Maynard and Company. Good Lord. What is your pub date? Oh my God, are you not even going to tell me? Hang on a second. I want to see. Somebody actually read this with love, because this is an old book. This is a 100-year-old book, and somebody cut the pages all the way to the end, which means somebody read this. Okay, it's not telling me, but this would have been 100 years ago. This is by Edward Legee, and this is more about King Edward. See, somebody cut the pages on this thing. So they read it carefully. They read it lovingly, as I will do, absolutely, because this is... Here, let me get you a picture of himself. This is a book about King Edward VII that I have never seen. I've never seen this. I've never read it. I think if I'm guessing correctly, then Edward the Gie is a member of a very old courtier family that used to be noble. Maybe that gives him access. I don't know. I don't know if this is an access book or not. But it's got illustrations like that all throughout. The black and white illustrations. I don't know, because I don't have a date on this, I don't know if this came out when King Edward was still alive. I don't know anything about the provenance of this book. I don't know when it appeared. It's at least 100 years old. But did it come out before 1910? I have no idea. But it's a big fat book about King Edward, and I have a whole shelf of big fat books about King Edward. He is going out on a limb, but not by much. I think he is probably my single favorite English monarch of them all. Not just the House of Windsor, but all of them. I think that's the case. Certainly he's the most enjoyable for me to read about. And I've never even seen this thing. So I grabbed it. Of course I did. And it stands a huge likelihood of being the thing that I read tonight. Out of every Brattle haul, I like to pick something to read right away. Pretty sure this will get. I don't think there's anything else that competes with this. Then these last two are another example of a recurrent thing that happens at the Brattle. I always say the Brattle will provide, but the Brattle also gives second chances for things. I guess it's the same thing as the Brattle will provide, where I develop a lack in my own library. I create a lack by getting rid of something. In the olden days, the lack would be created because the book would fall on the floor and my beagles would fall upon it and tear it to shreds. And I was laughing so hard at how adorable they were that I didn't really care that they were destroying a book because I knew the Brattle would provide. I knew that I would find another copy. In later days, of course, my little dog now would not destroy a book. She might tell another dog not to. She doesn't like that kind of chaotic behavior at all. So now the function of the Brattle will provide is if, like I mentioned earlier, I get rid of a copy of something and I want it again. Because the Brattle's turnover is so great that not only will you see another copy of a particular book, but you will see another specific edition of that book. If you wait long enough, if you're lucky. I don't think I will ever see this again. I really don't. I don't think the Brattle will provide for this. I think this will just be one of a kind. But these last two, I had them. I hauled them on this channel. I talked about it in the library tours and whatnot, and one of you in each case saw them and wanted it. Not just this author, because you can get these in paperback or for free, but these particular editions. And it stung just a bit, but in both cases, in one case I remember, and it must be true with the other, in both cases I'm sure that I said, well, it stings a little, but I'm going to see these things again, and you're not. Most of you have access to what? A couple of charity shops, a Goodwill, an Oxfam shop or something like that, where the turnover isn't great and there's only one shelf anyway. Most people don't have access to the kind of bookstore that the Brattle is, so I got rid of them in both cases. And today, in one fell swoop, I found both of them. I found two examples of that. There are plenty of books like that, but I found two. One is this particular edition of The Country of the Pointed Firs by Sarah Orne Jewett. I love this edition from W. Edward Norton. I don't know why. There have been plenty of beautiful Jewett editions. I just like this one. And I found a copy of this years ago. I hauled it on this channel and got rid of it and just told myself, you will see that again. And here it is. So, great. I will hold on to this one. And then this is the second greatest biography of Samuel Johnson. And this is W. Jackson Bate, his great big biography of Johnson. It's seminal, absolutely seminal. It is. You can't call it the greatest Johnson biography because there's Boswell, but it is still an incredible book and incredibly readable. Bate is just so incredibly readable. It's on a high scholarly level, but it's really engaging prose. And I had a copy of this. I showed it on a couple of library tours, and then somebody raised their hand, and off it went. So I have it again now, and that's great. I will try to hold on to that. And that was it. That was a long overdue Brattle visit, where I found a whole bunch of stuff, new and old, that I can enjoy. I found the Bate Samuel Johnson. I found Country of the Pointed Firs, in the edition that I want, I found more about King Edward by Edward Legee, who I think is of the Legees, of the court family Legee. I don't imagine there's a coincidence there. Then Three Californias, in a Tor Essentials edition by Kim Stanley Robinson. The Siege of Loyalty House, weird occurrence here, finding the UK hardcover when the American publisher would not cough one up. Under the Moons of Mars, Barsoom pastiche fiction. Yours Ever, Thomas Mallon's examination of snail mail correspondence. The Rise of Roscoe Payne, by Joseph Lincoln, an old Cape Cod novel. And finally, The Fear Dealers by Jack Thomas, about kids gone wrong and up to no good. So, not a bad Brattle haul. I think the King Edward book wins today, but it could be Sarah and Jimmy. Could very well be. Either way, I'm going to wrap this up for now. I've got plenty more books to do. I think it's going to be raining here all day tomorrow, so I won't get a chance to go out and about, I doubt. But I'll keep you updated either way. So I will wrap this up for now, and I will see you soon. Thank you, BookTube.